Our top story tonight, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to be out for the rest of 2023. It is tragic. It dashes the hopes of all the New York Jets fans out there, and it severely limits Garrett Wilson's upside, destroys the rest of the passing game. It's just the Breece Hall show in New York now. We're going to get to that and much, much more on Player Profiler Today. Poor Aaron Rodgers. Poor Aaron Rodgers. This is unlike anything we have ever seen in the NFL. All of the hype, the pomp and circumstance surrounding Aaron Rodgers, his departure from Green Bay, his debut with the New York Jets, the elevated expectations for the Jets, and then 4 snaps into his season, 4 snaps into Aaron Rodgers' new journey with the New York Jets. His season is cut short, and it sucks. It really does suck. This is honestly like if Peyton Manning, when he went to the Denver Broncos, had ended up being injured, missed his first season. If Tom Brady had been injured his first year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it would be like that. With Aaron Rodgers, this is just unprecedented. Absolutely. Poor Jets fans. My heart goes out to the New York faithful out there. It is unfair. You have been through so much. You didn't deserve this. And I don't know if Joe Namath, maybe he sold his soul for a Jets title. That would leave 46 years left. There have been 54 years since Joe Namath won his Super Bowl. 46 years left in a 100-year curse. Hopefully that's not the case. And hopefully Aaron Rodgers is back next year. I cannot for the life of me see Aaron Rodgers going out like this, going out on a torn Achilles. He's going to be back. He's going to be with the Jets. He's already on a 2-year contract. So he is back. And he's already starting issues with the New York Jets. Immediately, the next day, it leaks that Aaron Rodgers has not been a fan of the cut blocks that the offensive line was operating in the quick game. That is not a technique that is taught by many offensive line coaches anymore, but the Jets teach that. And Nathaniel Hackett overruled it. And Aaron Rodgers, on 4 plays, he gets hit twice thanks to these cut blocks that the offensive line is doing, trying to clear up passing ways in the quick game. But Rodgers, as we know, likes to hold the ball. The Jets offensive line is on the ground because they're trying to get a quick throw out. Rodgers gets hit once, gets sacked another time. The Achilles is done. We'll see if Nathaniel Hackett is still the offensive coordinator next year. If the offensive line coach changes, looks like Rodgers is not happy with how the injury happened. Already starting stuff in the New York media, but I'm sure that's as far as it'll go for now. We'll see how the rest of the season shakes out. Offensive line coach has a bad offensive line too, so won't be surprised to see him end up being the scapegoat. But for now, this is Zach Wilson's team. Zach Wilson is QB1. There is no competition, and at face value, you probably think, well, that's kind of silly that there's no competition for Zach Wilson, but who would you put him in a competition with? Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is the most talented quarterback out there, but Zach Wilson also knows the system. Carson Wentz will be learning the system on the fly. Zach Wilson knows it. And how much of an upgrade is Carson Wentz over Zach Wilson? Kind of feels like a lateral move for a guy that doesn't know the playbook. You look at some of the other quarterbacks out there. Who are they going to bring in? They've got Tim Boyle coming up from the practice squad. They've called Chad Henne, the Kansas City backup who won the Super Bowl last year, retired. They're trying to bring him in. They could bring back Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's interested. Chris Streveler is a free agent. Flacco and Streveler both know the system from last year. Blake Bortles knows the system. There could be a trade for Case Keenum from the Houston Texans because he's QB3 right now behind Davis Mills and CJ Stroud. Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick called the New York Jets. He's not getting a call back. Spoiler alert. But all of these names, none of these names deserve to be in a quarterback competition with Zach Wilson. And I agree with you here, Thomas. I do agree that Wentz is better than Zach Wilson. But you're bringing in Carson Wentz, who doesn't know the playbook. asking him to learn on the fly. That is worse than Zach Wilson. So it would be a good idea to bring in Carson Wentz as the backup with the potential to replace Zach Wilson down the road. But you can't just start it off as a competition. None of these other quarterbacks available are good enough, except Tom Brady. If Tom Brady were to be convinced to come out of retirement, that would be the one quarterback who immediately starts over Zach Wilson. It's not going to happen, but what if it did happen? What if Tom Brady comes out of retirement, leads the New York Jets to a Super Bowl in the same division that he dominated for so many years, the team he terrorized for so many years? Could Tom Brady come out of retirement? Could the team end up trading for Matthew Stafford? The Jets were in conversations over the summer with Matthew Stafford, but then Aaron Rodgers became available. We'll see what ends up happening with the New York Jets. Ultimately, I feel it's going to be a pretty disappointing outcome. It's probably going to be Joe Flacco signs to the active roster. They elevate Tim Boyle to the active roster and then bring Chris Streveler to the practice squad or something. I think we're all going to get our hopes up, and it's not going to work out. But what won't get your hopes up is Player Profiler. Player Profiler, you know it. You love it. Player Profiler is always here for you. Podfather, take it away.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on PlayerProfiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all of this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks, our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
Unfortunately for Player Profiler faithful, you all know, based on the homework that you've done on our website, Garrett Wilson did not have a good time last year with Zach Wilson. It did not work out at all. The touchdown that Zach Wilson threw to Garrett Wilson to take the lead in the game, that was the first TD that Garrett Wilson caught from Zach Wilson in 9 games together last season. 9 games, no TDs for Garrett Wilson. Now gets his first touchdown. But it was not good at all last year with Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver 60 in fantasy points while Zach was his quarterback. He was outside the top 30 in receptions, receiving yards, and yards per route run with Zach Wilson under center. Now, there were 3 games down towards the end of the season, the end of their time together, that Zach Wilson was able to hit Garrett Wilson for over 90 yards. He had a 6 reception, 115-yard game. He had an 8 reception for 92-yard game and a 4 reception for 98-yard game. But then Garrett Wilson also had 5 games under 50 yards. The other 5 games were all under 50. He had 4 games where he was under 30 yards and 3 games where Garrett Wilson did not top 20 receiving yards with Zach Wilson. So I'm worried. I am absolutely worried about Garrett Wilson. I am selling him if at all possible. If you can capitalize on the crazy touchdown that he had with Zach Wilson, sell if you can, but I don't know what you're going to get for Garrett Wilson at this point. It is bleak. The Jets are officially no longer Super Bowl contenders, and it breaks my heart, as does the Achilles tear for J.K. Dobbins. This is devastating as well. J.K. Dobbins will miss the entire 2023 season. And now I'm sure people out there are wondering, well, Achilles, Cam Akers came back pretty quickly, right? Even at the advanced rate that Cam Akers came back, that was still 6 months. It's halfway through September, October, November, December, January, February, March. That's March for an aggressive comeback for J.K. Dobbins or Aaron Rodgers. It's not happening. They'll be ready next summer. Aaron Rodgers will be able to throw next summer. He'll be cleared to play. He might be able to play in the preseason. J.K. Dobbins, we'll see. But this isn't going to be a Cam Akers. Oh, look, they returned. It's just not going to happen. It's too late in the year. They'd have to return in 5 months to make the Super Bowl. February's 5 months away. It ain't happening as much as I would like it to. But J.K. Dobbins, what happens with this Baltimore Ravens offense without him? I think this is going to be a big Justice Hill week. This is going to be a big Justice Hill offense going forward. Jack, welcome back. You forgot to remove the hospital gown. I wore the hospital gown shirt in honor of Aaron Rodgers because he's going to be spending some time in the hospital. Same with J.K. Dobbins, going to be spending quite a bit of time in the hospital in physio rehabbing. But this Baltimore Ravens offense is so much better suited to Justice Hill now. We're not running the 3 tight ends and a fullback sets that the Ravens ran for so many years with Greg Roman. This is a wide open offense. This is a spread 'em and shred 'em offense for the Baltimore Ravens. It benefits the entire offense to have a receiving back like Justice Hill. Because Gus Edwards, he's not catching the ball out of the backfield. Melvin Gordon isn't catching the ball out of the backfield. Melvin Gordon and Gus Edwards are the same guy. At this point in their careers, they are grinder backs. Melvin Gordon can catch the ball if he needs to, but it's not helping the offense dumping it off to Melvin Gordon. It is helping the offense to dump it off to Justice Hill. So Justice Hill is the guy you want in the Baltimore Ravens backfield. It's not Gus Edwards. The unfortunate thing is Justice Hill did score the touchdown for the Baltimore Ravens, scored 2 of them, if memory serves correct. Maybe he only scored 1, but either way, that makes it more likely you're going to have to raise your bid for Justice Hill, but he is absolutely the running back you want for the Baltimore Ravens. Gus Edwards is Jamal Williams. Melvin Gordon is Jamal Williams. These are all the same guy. They're all Ezekiel Elliott. They are all just in between the tackle grinders on the backside of their careers. But the Baltimore Ravens, the problem with the offense, even without J.K. Dobbins, they're also going to be without 2 offensive linemen. Ronnie Stanley is week to week. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley, all pro tackle, pro bowler at the very least, week to week with a knee sprain. Tyler Linderbaum, their first round center from last year, week to week with an ankle sprain. And Marcus Williams, the all pro safety that they brought in from the New Orleans Saints last season, who missed the majority of the season. He's going to miss the majority of the season once again, if not the entire season. Marcus Williams, torn pectoral muscle, going to miss a significant amount of time. The Ravens, year after year, they just cannot stay healthy at all. At all. Yes, Thomas Hill did have 8 carries, 9 yards, 2 TDs, and 0 catches, but this was a blowout for the Baltimore Ravens. The Houston Texans were not a threat at any point. Once they need to, once they're throwing the ball to win the game, it's going to be, 1, more rushing yards for Justice Hill because it's going to be less people in the box like he was getting on the goal line, and more receiving work potentially. It's still not going to be a huge receiving work, but Justice Hill is still the back you want for the Baltimore Ravens offense. In a pickle, had Garrett Wilson and targeting Puka and Nucua on waivers. If I get Puka, do I start him and Higbee or drop Higbee for Henry, Komet, Troutman, or Ertz? I would start Puka Nucua over Garrett Wilson at this point. As dirty as it sounds, as disgusting as it sounds, this is a decision point that a lot of people are having. But I think at this point, you can trust Puka Nucua over Garrett Wilson. I'd have to look at the matchups, but you also have my permission to drop Tyler Higbee. He is clearly not a focal point in this offense like we expected him to be. Pick up instead Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry looks like he's a massive, massive part of this New England Patriots offense. Zach Ertz led all tight ends in targets, but it didn't matter. He still had under 40 receiving yards. He might have had even under 30 receiving yards. It was not good at all. Have Sutton and Judy on the same team. I also have Devontae Smith. Should I keep both or trade one? If so, which Broncos wide receiver should I trade? Trade Cortland Sutton on the back of the touchdown last week. Keep Jerry Jeudy because Jerry Judy's going to be getting more targets than Cortland Sutton when he returns. So capitalize on the touchdown for Cortland Sutton. Get rid of him. Devontae Smith is much better. Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy, those will be your starting wide receivers going forward. Moving on to the injury report, because it's not good. The injury report is Heartbreaking this week. Austin Eckler suffered an ankle injury. He is at risk to play this weekend. Austin Eckler looked so good for the Los Angeles Chargers as well, though he did only leave the game, for one drive. We see often that with these low ankle sprains, they can return to play early. They've got the adrenaline pumping. Sometimes even with the high ankle sprains, they can return to play because they've got the adrenaline pumping, and then it swells up. That's when the pain sets in. So Austin Eckler, let's hope it was a low ankle sprain, but either way, I don't think he's going to be playing this week. Pick up Joshua Kelley or Justice Hill and drop Charbonnet in standard. Yes, I would pick up both of those running backs at the expense of Zach Charbonnet. I think I'd rather have Justice Hill because it's going to be more of a long-term play, but Joshua Kelley is a pretty good consolation prize. What fab are you dropping on Puka as a Garrett Wilson owner? Probably 10%, 15%. You're not going to blow your wad on Puka Nucua. He's not the type of player you go out and overspend on early, but 10 to 15% on Puka. And I'm all right if I end up missing out on him as well because Cooper Kupp is going to return at some point. Puka Nucua, not extremely athletic. So still a lower ceiling than we would like. So I'm not going to go crazy. 10, 15% of your fab on Puka. Maybe push it up to 20 if you're really desperate, but have Hall, Roshan, Gainwell, White, and Gibbs. That's a really, really, really good great group. Love that. First waiver claim, I'll pick up Hill. Yep, absolutely correct decision. We also have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is being evaluated for a hamstring injury. We saw it on that long touchdown reception that he had. He pulled up at the end, grabbed the hamstring. Get well soon, Aaron Jones. They're still evaluating. We'll see if he ends up missing any time. Teammate Christian Watson, though, he hopes to play in week 2. We'll keep an eye on that. Practice reports will be out tomorrow for the first day. So if Christian Watson returns to practice tomorrow, great news, expect him to play. If he's still out, bad news for Christian Watson. We'll get you updated on Aaron Jones as well. Rhamondre Stevenson, people were disappointed with how much we saw Ezekiel Elliott, though that could be because Rhamondre Stevenson ended up getting sick towards the end of the week at practice. Maybe he wasn't feeling 100% quite yet, and so they decided to spare him. That's the hope, because Rhamondre Stevenson needs more than Ezekiel Elliott, needs more than he was getting. So let's just hope it was the illness keeping Rhamondre Stevenson back. At running back, we also have Evan Hull. Evan Hull is headed to injured reserve. Heartbreaking for the Northwestern kid. He's going to miss at least 4 games. Could end up missing even more time with a knee injury. And instead, the Colts add Jake Funk to the roster from the practice squad. He was activated last week because Zach Moss didn't play. Hopefully Zach Moss returns, but even still, this is Zach Moss, this is Deion Jackson, and this is Jake Funk in the backfield for the Indianapolis Colts. You need more alongside Anthony Richardson, who played pretty good. Let's be honest, Anthony Richardson had a pretty damn good week. I know he had the interception, but for so much of the game, Anthony Richardson was just playing mistake-free football. He showed the athleticism. He showed the arm. I'm excited about Anthony Richardson. Less excited about Deontay Johnson. He's going to be out for a few weeks with a hamstring injury. So many hamstring injuries across the NFL period. Greg Dulcich, Broncos tight end, also going to be out multiple weeks with a hamstring injury as well. We hate it. J.C. Horn, Carolina Panthers cornerback, out multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. We have seen way too many injuries for J.C. Horn. Makes the Carolina Panthers an offense that you can, or a defense, that you can target once they're not playing the Atlanta Falcons, because the Atlanta Falcons passing game was completely non-existent. This is a run-first team. This is a poorly managed team, the Atlanta Falcons, but they're 1-0, so the fantasy gamers can stop complaining, according to Arthur Smith. Even though it's not the fantasy gamers that are upset, we just want to know why you hate value, why you decide to draft these players with top 10 capital like Drake London and Kyle Pitts and just not use them at all. But Arthur Smith knows better than us. He's not going to give us our answers. Other news, other injury updates around the NFL. Jakobi Meyers is in the concussion protocol, which stinks. Jakobi Meyers had a dominant debut for the Las Vegas Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo is the case against analytics. Jimmy Garoppolo is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterbacks every year in terms of expected points added, cross-referenced with completion percentage over expected. Jimmy Garoppolo just every year. One of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL, and this year is no exception. Jakobi Meyers, a big part of that. Davante Adams, a big part of that as well. We'll see if Jakobi Meyers ends up playing. We'll have an update tomorrow once the Raiders have their practice report in. If Jakobi Meyers is limited, great news. If he's not practicing, puts him behind the 8 ball, but then Thursday will be the deciding practice for Jakobi Meyers. If Jakobi Meyers is still not practicing by Thursday, expect him to miss on Sunday. If he returns to practice Wednesday, Thursday, good chance Jakobi Meyers ends up playing. Is Allen Robinson a good flex this week? Not particularly. I don't know how good of a flex Allen Robinson is any week, especially the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up looking last week. Though I'm not going to completely write them off. Just I don't get particularly excited about Allen Robinson. Let me know who else you've got on your roster, though. Maybe I'll see someone more exciting. 0.5 PPR flex. And I love that you've included the matchups because I am not quite committed to memory yet. So I'm going to have to look up matchups. Mostert versus New England, Dobbs versus Atlanta, Garrett Wilson versus Dallas, and P. Ryan versus Washington in a mini revenge game. Did Samaje P. Ryan play for the Commanders? I do not remember that at all. I know he kind of bounced around a little bit. So yeah, maybe you are right. But either way, we are going to start Raheem Mostert. We saw Kenny Gainwell was able to get the ball moving against the New England Patriots. Would it be nice if he found the end zone? Ooh, and then after that, I think I'm going with Romeo Dobbs over Garrett Wilson. If Christian Watson doesn't play, if Christian Watson does play, I definitely go Garrett Wilson. I'm not particularly interested in Samaje P. Ryan. Didn't get as much as I expected early on. We're just going to see more and more Javonte Williams as things continue to heal for Javonte Williams. Other injury news around the NFL, Travis Kelce is expected to return in week 2. Good news for all of you who drafted Travis Kelce in the first round. Probably drafted him with a top 5 pick. He is back, or at least expected to be back. There could be a setback, but barring a setback, Travis Kelce is going to play week 2. And he's probably going to be a little bit better than normal. Travis Kelce is riding high. Travis Kelce is currently secretly seeing Taylor Swift. And the exact quote is, where's the exact quote? Quietly hanging out with Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce is great news for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is going to power them to another Super Bowl. Congrats, Travis Kelce. Thoughts on Rashee Rice? We'll see how the snap share and the routes run and the targets roll out this week, but could very well see Rashee Rice end up supplanting Sky Moore. Could end up seeing him supplant Kadarius Toney. Probably not Marquez Valdes-Scantling. MVS has his role secure, run and win sprints no matter what. But I'm not playing Rashee Rice yet. Absolutely not, especially if Travis Kelce's coming back. But he's a guy I'm happy to have on my roster. He's a guy that could see an elevation considering how bad Sky Moore was. Assuming Gainwell sits, start Herbert or Swift. I don't think Gainwell is going to end up sitting. He was limited in practice with a rib injury, so I don't think you're going to end up coming to this situation. That being said, if Gainwell sits, then I start Swift. If Gainwell plays, I absolutely start Khalil Herbert. Do I have permission to drop Burks for Puka? No, I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I think Treylon Burks is still brighter days ahead. So not quite. Anyways, I think that's it for the injury report. We have some defensive injuries. Cam Hayward out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Devastating. This Pittsburgh Steelers team that I thought might have ended up being a sleeper based on how well the offense performed in the preseason. Need a big bounce back from Kenny Pickett. Need a massive bounce back this week. Speaking of bounce back, the Kansas City Chiefs are looking for a bounce back thanks to Travis Kelce and thanks to Chris Jones. Chris Jones is back on a 1-year deal. Incentives can get him up to $25 million, but ultimately kind of breaks even on the holdout. He skips training camp. The likely to be earned incentives, they'll get him back to the fines that he got from training camp and the game check that he missed in week 1, but a lot of this is fluff. I think Chris Jones, his agents ended up losing this one for him. Might want to seek new representation in 2024 because he's still going to be a free agent in 2024. Ridley for Olave and Madison. Ooh, I think I'd rather have Olave and Madison. Olave quietly dominated for the New Orleans Saints. He was a target hog. Derek Carr already loves Chris Olave. I know Trevor Lawrence loves Calvin Ridley, and after game one, looks like I'm taking the L that it's going to be Calvin Ridley sharing the load with everyone else, but Zay Jones was heavily involved too. Christian Kirk, while he wasn't targeted often, he still was getting open underneath for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I still believe this is going to be a rotation of wide receiver one for the Jacksonville Jaguars, though I do expect Calvin Ridley to lead that rotation now. Chris Olave, though, he's going to lead in targets for the New Orleans Saints week after week after week. The touchdowns will come. So I'd rather have Olave than Ridley. Getting Alexander Mattison on top is just a little bit extra. Other news around the NFL, La'el Collins cut by the Cincinnati Bengals, which makes no sense to me unless the injury is just not going well. He's on the PUP list currently. And so many teams across the NFL need backup guards, backup tackles. The offensive line depth across the NFL is brutal right now. The Seahawks have both of their offensive tackles injured. They brought in Jason Peters for that reason. So La'el Collins for the Cincinnati Bengals just getting cut. I'm interested to see what ends up happening. Maybe he asked for his release, knowing that the recovery is going poorly, and when he comes back, Jonah Williams is going to be the tackle anyways. Maybe it was for the cap savings this year. I don't know, but La'el Collins, no longer a Cincinnati Bengal. Jason Peters, a Seattle Seahawk. Brown signed Ty Nashiki. Jack Conklin, the right tackle for the Cleveland Browns, is done for the year. ACL, MCL, both torn. Backup will be DeJuan Jones, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, who did a pretty damn good job in preseason. We'll see if he is ready to make that jump, but a better replacement than a lot of NFL teams have. A lot of NFL teams, you lose a tackle, and it is going to be rough. Could be that way for the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to have to do some shuffling on the offensive line with Ronnie Stanley out. Seahawks losing 2 tackles. We'll see if Jason Peters is even ready to play, even knows the playbook. If you play IDP, Aiden Hutchinson is going to eat against the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to make up for this lack of sacks against the Kansas City Chiefs, despite all the pressure he got. So look out for the Seahawks. It is going to be a tough one against the Lions. Going to be another tough one for the Arizona Cardinals. They are starting Josh Dobbs once again. Probably only a matter of time until Clayton Tune ends up taking over as the starter, get some snaps out of him. But I still think Kyler Murray's going to come back quicker than we expect. Garrett Wilson for Drake London, or is that frying pan into a fire? Yeah, I think that's frying pan into a fire. I think that is. Give me Garrett Wilson, because at least Zach showed, hey, I'm willing to lean on Garrett Wilson, whereas the Falcons offense, nightmare, absolute nightmare. Final piece of news across the NFL, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have admitted they need that, and that is a strong number 2 option alongside Stephon Diggs to take pressure off of him to convert, because Gabe Davis was absolutely horrible for the Buffalo Bills. Gabe Davis, not it. And that's why the Buffalo Bills made a massive mistake, that's going to cost them a potential run at the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills not going after DeAndre Hopkins, not going after Odell Beckham, not getting a real wide receiver 2. And Dalton Kincaid, he looked all right. But he's not a true wide receiver 2. The Bills lack that, and it's going to end up costing them a Super Bowl.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.